First, I want to start off this video by apologizing to everyone about the quality of my recording. I have no idea what I've done with my other sound recorder, so I've had to use this microphone, which isn't great. I've spent a few hours trying to find my other sound recorder, and I just have no idea what I've done with it. So yeah, I apologize about the quality. I will try to have the other recordings better. I just did not have a whole lot of time where I could just put off doing this. The situation requires me to kind of jump on it pretty quickly. And that also leads me to some of the other things I wanted to talk about first. I'm not going to have very many visuals for this at all. And a couple of reasons being that, again, I needed to have speed done for this video, and doing visuals means that it's going to take forever for me to get it done. And in addition, I also wanted to avoid any potential strikes as a retaliation. So me not putting any visuals on here will help me avoid that. Also, I did not write down a script for this. This is all very off the cuff. So I also want to explain first and foremost that I am not a Five Nights at Freddy's fan. So I will be speaking about this as an outsider. So if I'm not interested in Five Nights at Freddy's, why am I talking about this to begin with? I have a friend that is interested, and the situation has upset her, and so I wanted to do my part to try and put out what information that I could, and things for everyone to consider and think about, not only for this specific situation, but also for future situations that pop up. Some of the things that I feel like helps qualify me as someone to speak on this matter, even as an outsider of the Five Nights at Freddy's series. I have experience with running a business. I also have over 100 works registered in the Copyright Office. I also am someone who has done web development since the 1990s. I also have a little bit of experience in game development. So putting all these things together, I feel like it gives me some background that I feel like I can still add something to the table, even as an outsider. So as I go through and talk about these things, I will try to provide additional information to help everyone understand. And I know that usually I'm not that great at explaining things, especially while talking off the cuff, but hopefully I'll be able to explain things well enough for, at least for some folks, to understand. And I'll do my best to try and provide as much information as I can. So firstly, I want to say how all this got started. So said friend started the conversation by asking us if we had been in any online queues, specifically in regards to video games. And I had said that that my only experience with it really was for the Sonic Magic the Gathering card sets. However, my ex-husband is the one that had handled all of it. He was the one that actually did the queue. And the way that he explained to me is that there were a couple different ways that they had allowed for you to be on the queue. You could do it with your account, and then you could also do it as a guest. And what you had to do was that you had to add the items to your shopping cart, and as you went through the checkout process, it would pop you into a queue for you to wait your turn in order to be able to purchase the item. And while you're in the queue, the stock is going down because of other folks who are also in the queue are having their turn to do the purchase. but you had to stay on that page and let the queue run. You could not refresh or close the browser or click away or any of that. You had to make sure that it stayed there, and then it would automatically kick you into finishing the checkout process once it was your turn. So, the friend was confused about how all this sort of thing worked. Now, at the time, I didn't have the detailed information that my ex husband provided to me on how the Magic the Gathering queue purchase worked. I had to ask him prior to recording lines for this video so that I could have that information to provide. Now, I'm not sure exactly how the process was for this Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach Blue Line Remastered thing worked. But she did provide a screenshot of what the queue looked like. So what she showed is that the page that had this, I'm guessing it was a spinning icon, and then below it it said limited quantity, please wait. And then it said, you are currently in the queue. Due to high demand, we cannot guarantee that the product will still be available. And part of the text is cut off. If the display freezes, please reload the page. So, with the newfound information that I have on how queues work already, that's a red flag. And then it says, product Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach Blue Line Remastered. Price, €0, quantity 1. And she stated that she had been sitting on that queue page almost all day. Okay, so one of the first things that I had pointed out when we started picking apart the situation is that I had pointed out that they used Wix for their website. And this is going to be like even more so a thing later as we continue on with the discussion. But Wix is a CMS system. CMS stands for Content Management System. There's a whole bunch of them out there. Wiki is another one. Drupal is another one. WordPress is probably like one of the most famous ones that everyone knows about. But there's like all kinds of other ones that are out there. There's just so many of them. But basically what a CMS system is that it is a website that is built together. So it's a pre-made website that is made together by either a person or a company, and it is designed to be something that anyone, regardless of their skills with web development or lack thereof, could download and then upload onto their web server. And then when they start it up, you put in some basic information like what you want to call your website and what your admin login is going to be and all that stuff, and it'll create the database system for you and get everything all set up, and then you decide how you want the website to look like colors and layouts, depending on what the specific CMS system has. Now, a lot of the CMS systems also do their own hosting. I can confirm that WordPress for sure is one that you can go through them to host your own website. But you can also really use any web host to run these CMS systems. Like the host that I use, they actually have some deals with a couple of CMS systems where you could download through them a CMS system, and the the main difference is that when you host through the CMS system's own service, it'll be like whatever you want to name your website .wordpress.org or whatever, like just as an example. But if you do it through your own web host, it would be like whatever.com that you set up for yourself. So it would, the URL would be your own, the domain would be your own. Whereas through these CMS systems, you would see in the URL it's their domain. And so with the blue line, what I noticed is that it says like pretty big there at the top that they're using Wix for their website. And that was something I had pointed out during the discussion. So as the conversation went on, the friend informed us that Blue Line had stated that they released limited copies for copyright reasons. Me and a mutual friend were like, that doesn't make any sense at all. This is a digital thing. Digital products don't have limitations to them versus a physical copy of something. Like a physical copy makes sense because it takes time to manufacture something, and when you have a manufacturer produce a product for you, you tell them X amount, and then that X amount is what you get. So there is a limit to that. But with digital, it doesn't matter. You could have 5 people or 5 million. Like it doesn't matter. You can't run out. And the fact that they're saying for copyright reasons is really weird. I'll get more into that later. The mutual friend of ours had made a comment pointing out, if it's for copyright, surely they would have done a mailing list or only sent it to specific people. Yes, if you are aware that what you're doing is a copyright issue, you would not be going as public as possible about it. You would be doing a lot of backdoor stuff. And I had also pointed out, having a queue set up tells me they expected a large response, which would put them in hot water already. If you are selling an item, whatever that item is, you have to set up your website to have a queue. Websites by themselves on their own do not automatically have a queue set up. You have to specifically program one. And this is assuming that they didn't do something kind of shady with their website where they made it look like that there's a queue when there wasn't. But in either case, that queue was put into the website, whether there's a real product or not. They had to specifically program it in there because they knew that there would be a large response. I do not have access to their X account, but the friend that's a fan of this Five Nights at Freddy's franchise informed us that she looked at their X account and there's no comments, only posts, which kind of weird. And I started remarking that I can't say for sure what's going on, but I felt like that there was like red flags all over the place. She informed us that their YouTube channel was getting a bunch of hate comments for the queue. Our mutual friend started saying, I'm wondering if there's even a real queue, to be honest. And with the way everything has been looking, I'm in agreement. Our mutual friend also stated, I've watched enough crowdfunding scam videos. She did not finish that thought, but I don't think she really had to. But I'm bringing that up because, like, I wanted to share that both of us who are outsiders to this series were like very skeptical about whether or not there even was a real product. Both of us have seen some things happen over the years and have done research into things where we kind of know what to look out for. Um, but we also have been like, well, if this company isn't getting money, then it's not really a scam exactly. No one's really getting scammed out of anything but their time. I okay, so I did ask the friend to show us where the hate comments about the queue was getting posted. I went on ahead and clicked on that. A couple of the comments I'll go ahead and read out. One person stated, "Bold of you cretins to keep posting like this is a real product." Another person stated, "Is there even a game? Did I stumble upon some weird ARG or am I just stupid?" There was another person that commented, "Seen the trailer and love what you've done with the game. When new versions release, how do you request or download one?" Blue Line replied saying, "Unfortunately, due to copyright restrictions, we are not allowed to provide additional versions this month. However, we are working around the clock to make new versions available for you." This is a digital product, okay? Supposedly, like, to give the benefit of the doubt, let's say that there is a product and that it was done because they supposedly released it. What work are you doing around the clock for a finished product? And to say copyright restrictions, we're not allowed to provide additional versions is. Here's the thing about copyrights. You can get a copyright strike for selling one copy of a copyrighted material. Okay, there's nothing with copyright laws that go, "Oh, well, it's okay if you sold these tens of thousands of copies, but after that, then you're in." No, it doesn't matter. If you do one thing that violates the copyright laws, it's a violation of the copyright law. Period. Them saying, trying to sling around copyright restrictions as an excuse as to why they can only do certain quantities is complete bull. The amount of misinformation that floats around on the internet about copyright stuff drives me absolute crazy. I have spent decades trying to teach people about how copyright stuff works, and I feel like every time I turn around, there's thousands more people who have no understanding of how copyright stuff, because there's just so much misinformation that gets passed around so much on the internet, and people just believe whatever that they come across first, and unfortunately don't look into it. Yeah, and anytime that you see someone be like, talk about quantities and copyright restrictions, that is bull crap. Like, whoever tells you this stuff, they're just straight up lying, and they're just word salading. That's all it is. They're taking advantage of the extremely high rate of misinformation about copyright laws to trick everybody. It's what they're doing. It's a straight up lie. Here's what the post is that folks had commented on, and I'm going to read out what it says. And you can go to the Blue Line Entertainment YouTube channel and find this post. It's still up. Dear community, yesterday was a day we will never forget. Our new game, Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach Blue Line Remastered, was released, and the response has completely overwhelmed us. Within just 2 hours, an incredible 682,924 people wanted to get their hands on it. Numbers like these are beyond words, and we are endlessly grateful for your support, your trust, and your excitement. The demand was so immense that our servers reached their limits at times. The editions we had planned to last an entire month sold out in less than 4 minutes. You have truly surpassed even our boldest expectations. Please rest assured, we are already working at full speed on new editions so that more of you can join the experience as soon as possible. At the same time, we are taking steps to strengthen our systems and processes to be better prepared for this extraordinary demand in the future. On behalf of the entire team, we want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts. None of this would be possible without you. You are the reason we do what we do. With endless gratitude, your Blue Line Entertainment Inc. company team. For those of you who have any understanding of copyright laws, do you understand what just happened? For the sake of argument, let's say that there was a product, 682,924. They put out a number. That is a sizable number. If you were a lawyer, what would you think looking at this post and seeing that number? You would be going, they just did guilt admission. And that would screw them over in court so fast. They talk about copyrights, but then are flaunting this large number. That is a huge red flag. And that would be a huge problem whether it's a legitimate product or not. In either scenario, this post is a huge problem. Either they're full of crap, or they did sell almost 700,000 copies and would be seeing their butts in court. Doesn't look good for them either way. Even though we already covered it earlier, I did want to go ahead and add in a statement that our mutual friend had said, because I think that she had worded it pretty well. Why are they wording it like it's physical copies? They don't need to make more of anything. Literally just chuck the file up. And I had stated what they just did with that post would get their asses dragged in court over copyright. Again, this is assuming that there was a product. If there wasn't a product, they won't go to court, and that puts them in hot water for anyone that was looking forward to this product. They were also found to delete some of the comments. I'm actually surprised they didn't delete my comment. Yesterday we thought that mine had gotten removed, but while I'm looking at the post today, it's still there. I'm not going to read what my comment says because we're going to go into talking about all that later. But our mutual friend grabbed a screenshot of a comment that did get removed. So if you recall the comment that I read earlier where someone had questioned if they came across an ARG, So the comment that got removed states, "Nah, I'm 100% certain it's fake. Apparently, quote, due to copyright restrictions, we are not allowed to provide additional versions this month," end quote, which is complete BS. That's not how it works. There's also not a single video out there covering this, quote, fan game, end quote. You think someone out there would have streamed or uploaded footage of it by now, as they've, quote, sold out, end quote, and given the popularity of FNAF on YouTube. Yeah, this is a scam. And that was actually something really good that that person pointed out. Where's the gameplay footage of this supposed game? There's almost 700,000 copies that might have sold, but there's no stream of this game. All anyone has been able to find were a couple of accounts that re-showed footage of this supposed existing game that Blue Line had put out. It's like the opening, from what I understand. And these accounts that have these videos, their accounts are largely empty. The video clips are like about a minute, and they show the same, opening stuff. There's no actual gameplay. Five Nights at Freddy's has a huge following, and nobody streamed this game. If there is a real product, where are the streamers? And it's crazy to me that they claimed that there were 682,000 plus interest and possible downloads, but this post only has a handful of comments. Now, I don't know how many comments have been deleted, but looking at it at the time of this recording, there's only 12 comments. 682,924 people, to quote Blue Line directly, but they've got 12 comments, only 32 likes. That's it. So then at that point, after we had the three of us had talked back and forth about how weird and how none of this made any sense, I asked to be given a link to their website. I wanted to use some of my business and web development background to take a look at their website. And I did this on my laptop because I wanted to make sure I had the maximum amount of tools and reach that I could have for analyzing their website. So our mutual friend sent us the link. It was pulled from their YouTube profile. So looking at the URL, just the URL by itself, it is bluelineinc.wixsite.com/blueline/FNAF security breach Blue Line Remastered. Did you notice something with the URL? bluelineinc.wixsite.com. Not only are they using a Wix CMS system, but they are also having Wix host their website. This is not something fan game creators usually do. It's going to get crazier. So we started looking at the website. Our mutual friend stated, "I was wondering if there is even any footage of the game. All I see is fly-throughs and panning shots of empty levels." Yet, even though that they're hyping this game up, they have not really anything to show for it. I'm not sure where exactly this footage came from, and because I'm not a fan of Five Nights at Freddy's, I can't even tell if the levels that they're showing is pulled from previous games or not, or if um, or if the original game material is even in this supposed remaster. I can only go by what other Five Nights at Freddy's fans say in regards to that, and I don't have very much information about that. The friend who is a fan of Five Nights at Freddy's informed us that people are saying that stolen models made by other people, but I don't know. So it sounds like it's still up in the air where exactly this footage that they put up even came from or how it was made. But if it is stolen models made from other people, it sounds like to me that this supposed remaster of the security breach isn't even actually an attempt at remastering the original security breach game. I could be wrong on that though. I mean, like I said, I'm an outsider, so I can't say for sure, but it just feels that way from the information that I've been provided. So I started like deep diving and kind of going through their website with the fine tooth comb. I noticed that in their credits part, they had a line that said support live production universe entertainment, and I made the statement, this is supposed to be a fan game, but they have other studios involved. I'm not familiar with either of those. And they have multiple company names with the name Blue in it in their credits for a fan game. And I thought it was weird that they're saying that this is a remaster of a fan game, but no mention of Steel Wool. From what I understand, Steel Wool is the original developer for the Five Nights at Freddy's security breach game. So it did seem weird that, like, you're remastering, but you completely scrub Steel Wool from it, which seems weird. I had also grabbed a screenshot of their line of credits that they had on the website, and it was just kind of like weird to go through. So it said developer Blue Line Entertainment and Blue Line Studios, project manager Leon W, editing video Blue Line Entertainment, Blue Nitro Animation, editing audio Blue Line Entertainment, Blue Line Studios, DJ Silver, editing gameplay. I don't know where the gameplay even is, but Blue Line Entertainment, Blue Line Engine, editing general, Blue Line Entertainment, Leon 08115 Studio, which is kind of odd, support, live production, Universe Entertainment, Blue Line / Engine, Spiel Production. Like, this is really weird. How many fan games do you guys know that have like this whole host of different companies and studios being involved? And do you notice that there's like a whole lot of blue being involved in like all these company names? And I don't even know if some of these company names are even legit. Like, I couldn't find live production or Universe Entertainment, but they're also like pretty basic names, so that could be like trouble for search engines to like figure out. And when you look at their photos and videos, it's just screenshots from their promo video. When you look at like any game, whether it's a fan game or a proper video game with their photos and videos, you would see all kinds of like different stuff, not just from the promo video. That is not the case here. Every single picture that they had is just from that one promo video. There's like no actual real content being displayed. And I thought it was weird that, like, the way that their website is, they try to present themselves like an entire professional studio, but made a fan game and put out all kinds of false statements about copyrights. And I was looking at, like, the bottom of their page on their website, and there's like this kind of like more usage of the word blue that I thought was just really weird. It said Blue Line Network, Blue Line Engine, Blue Line Music, Blue Line Future, Blue Line Family. And the F in the word family was lowercase. And in where it said Blue Line Music, there was no space between line and music. So that was like kind of weird. I had also made the statement to into the group chat. If you're a legit studio that has gone to such lengths to have nested companies under your division, you know about copyright stuff and wouldn't do fan games. So, for those who don't know, I know that me saying nested companies isn't the proper term, but what companies can do is that you can have other companies under the ownership of a company. Kind of like how. Are you guys familiar with the Sonic team? That is a company that is owned under Sega, as an example of what nested companies can look like. And in order for you to have nested companies, you do have to have, well, not necessarily have to, but it is usually implied that your company is doing well and has a bunch of money. Usually, and this is like assuming that all of these company names that I've been talking about are actually registered. I did not get off my butt to actually go look because I don't care enough to go through all that, especially since that they're supposed to be a German company. Well, companies. But nonetheless, like, if you're gonna have all these multiple companies, it usually implies that you have a whole bunch of money and you're like this big company. And when you're of that status, you're gonna know about copyright stuff. Like, there's just no way that there's a company that has all these nested sub companies and is this stupid and uneducated on copyright stuff, and you would not do fan games because you know about how copyright works. Like, it's learning about copyrights and stuff is like part of the process of when you learn about starting a company. I had to learn about all this stuff when I was setting up my company. I also noticed that when I looked at some of their other projects, the other games that they supposedly made, the majority of them were Five Nights at Freddy's stuff. And there was like multiple of them. And I found that suspicious. Our mutual friend at that point stated, I would say send it to DJ Slope, the guy I watch who does crowdfunding scam videos, but I don't think there's enough material here for him to work with. She provided contact information for our Five Nights at Freddy's fan to reach out to this guy and see about maybe having him do an investigation. So I started looking at their other socials. I was on my laptop at the time though, so I didn't have like access to their X account. I haven't cared enough to really deep dive into how X works, but it seems to be like it whether or not something is publicly viewable or account, like you have to have an account and be logged in order to see material. I'm not sure like exactly how all that works. Usually when I'm looking at X posts, I'm on my phone and that's where I'm logged into X, and I'm too lazy to log into X on my laptop. But you can see a few things. I just couldn't see their posts, so I can't really verify at this stage on what was going on there with their X. But when I looked at their account, I found that they only had 74 followers. And when I said that, our mutual friend asked, then how would thousands, by their admission, of people even know how to find it? And it's not just thousands, it's hundreds of thousands. And I said precisely, and their YouTube has only 5K followers. 5.72K to be precise. There's 23 watchers on DeviantArt, though I don't know why a video game studio would bother with DeviantArt, but that alone isn't an issue. But only 23 watchers? Again, for a studio that supposedly makes all these Five Nights at Freddy's games, an IP that's pretty big. 72 followers on Instagram. And on their latest post about this fan game remaster on Instagram, there's only 13 likes and 4 comments. Their TikTok has just 258 followers. But their latest TikTok video has 40K views. Now, all the other videos, when I looked at them at the time, they were like very, very low. Like, and our mutual friend theorized that their YouTube, their follower count probably is a lot of bots, especially when you compare it to how many followers that they have on their other socials. Like, even comparing to TikTok, which should be a huge source for Five Nights at Freddy's fans, judging by like the age group that tends to follow it. 258 followers on TikTok, but 5.72K followers on YouTube. It is kind of weird and suspicious. So I can understand why she was theorizing bots. Yeah, so it looks like that all of their other TikTok videos were about this security breach Blue Line remaster. So that I can give you guys like proper view counts on them, because I do want to be as accurate as possible. So the latest one was 40.4K at the time that I took the screenshot. The video after that had 1,501. The video after that was 724. The video after that is 996. The video after that is 1,129. The video after that is 1,399. The video after that was 2,032. After that, 682. After that, 1,134. After that, 4,294. And then the last video was 1,651. Now, I don't know how TikTok works, especially to someone who doesn't have an account there, so I was viewing it as a not logged in visitor. So I don't know if, let's see, if these 11 videos were all the account had, or if there were other ones. But because like 11 is such an odd number, I feel like that might be all the videos that they had. But you can tell by the view counts that like they were pretty low, and then all of a sudden there's that 40K bump. Kind of odd. Looking at their own website, they have a page that is supposed to talk about them as a developer, but there's like not very much information on there at all, but supposedly they've been around since 2021. And like that I also found confusing too, because like I'm not exactly sure what the real story is, because when you go to these different pages on their website, the information varies. Also something else I wanted to point out real quick before I forget it. On their website, they do not provide any kind of information about minimum requirements. Now, granted, not all fan games do this, but this is a company who is supposedly a corporation that has all these nested companies and have been around a long time. You would expect them to talk about minimum requirements for a video game. This is something that's usually important, especially for something that might be on the resource heavy side, depending on how it's made. Like, it's really weird. Usually, video game developers are pretty good about putting up that kind of information, and this includes indies. But yeah, that I've found that was odd. There were also like some of the links at the bottom of their homepage was broken. Like if you, some of the links will take you somewhere, but some of the links will kick out a 404 error. Usually corporations are on top of that. Another thing that I found that I let the other two know in our group chat, they listed ShineFlow for a couple other staff members, but according to what I've found, ShineFlow is a marketing company. Why would people from a marketing firm be employed at a gaming studio? I did find that ShineFlow does seem to be a company that exists. They have a LinkedIn profile, but you usually don't find people at marketing studios working at other companies at the same time usually. Now, of course, there are exceptions, but in the context of us trying to figure out whether or not this Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach Blue Line Remastered game exists or not, I felt that it was like something to add to the stack of this is weird. They also stated on their website that they have 21 people in the studio, but their page only showed 9. And it felt like to me a lot of managers for such a small size company. But again, like I'm not saying that is something that doesn't happen, but it's weird. So I'm also going to read out a few more things that I said in our chat. If you have nested companies, that means you're doing well financially. So hiring a marketing firm would make sense. And they're incorporated supposedly, but they have to have Wix host their site. They don't use their own .com. I have a .com. And if they did hire a marketing firm, either they suck or they didn't actually hire them, looking at the numbers their socials have. And why would a corporation bother with fan games? And why a corporation for such a small staffed company? Usually at that size it's an LLC. I mean, corporations for small companies isn't unheard of, but it's not what people usually do because of the benefits and costs. Our mutual friend stated, yeah, if they're indie, they're more likely to either make their own stuff or work for a bigger company as a freelancer, like King. And I stated, and indies don't typically do the nested company thing either. And their email is Gmail. For a corporation, The longer I look at it, the worse it gets. And two of the items that are in their bottom links on their website, Support Hub and Blue Line Support, are both this. They're both the same URL. They point to the same exact page. So that was like kind of weird that they had two separate links for the same thing. And the designer of their website screamed music studio to me, not gaming studio. And no one in the community has heard of this company before. The company claims they have all these Five Nights at Freddy's games out. Like usually fan game makers, if they make multiples of a game for an IP, usually people know about them. There's usually somebody somewhere that has heard of them. And from what our friend has said, no one has heard of them, and she hasn't heard of them. So that's kind of weird. And our friend found that um, someone has been getting their comments removed a lot from that post on YouTube because that person's been calling them out. Like I said, I'm surprised that my comment hasn't been taken down because I was calling them out and I pointed out several specific things. It's just red flags all over the place for me. Someone had commented on Blue Line's post on YouTube that there was a video that was privated after 30 minutes of it being posted. Unfortunately, I don't know what that video was, or if this is something that actually happened. I don't want to like throw out any accusations or anything. Because I don't know. If there was a video that was privated after 30 minutes, I am curious as to what that video was. And if it had gotten any comments on there. Maybe the comments were why it was privated. But if anyone has seen what that privated video was, please let me know. I had noticed that there was like a weird reply that Blue Line had sent to someone on YouTube. So someone had left a comment saying, "Hello creators, how are you? I wanted to know a few things, if it's not too much trouble. So we'll need to have the game security break to play or not. Is it possible to talk to the characters using Bluetooth headphones, yes or no? And is the site reliable and virus free, right?" And Blue Line replied with, "Hello, we are happy to answer your questions. Hello, we are happy to answer your questions." No, that is not a mistake on my part. They did put in that greeting twice. Number one, do we need to bypass the game protection? Answer, no, bypassing the game protection is not necessary. The person did not ask about that. Number two, is the website reliable and virus free? Answer, yes, our website Blue Line 3.0, https bluelineinc.wixsite.com/blueline is completely virus free and reliable. For more details, please refer to our privacy policy. Number three, is it possible to talk to the characters using Bluetooth headphones? Answer, yes. Communication with characters is possible with all devices as long as they are recognized by your computer as a microphone. You can also find further information directly in the game, weird, and on our Blue Line feature software. Thank you for your questions and your interest. We hope we were able to answer everything for you. Just like the way that whole thing went was kind of odd, so I wanted to add that. So I inquired the friend, like, who is it that owns Five Nights at Freddy's? Because, again, like, I'm an outsider and don't know. And she informed me it was Scott Coffin. I'm not sure if I pronounced his name right. And then the Security Breach was made by Steel Wool Studios that he partnered with. Now, from what she's telling me, he does not own Steel Wool, but he had partnered with them to have it made. And that Steel Wool had made Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted 1 and 2, Security Breach plus Ruin, and Secret of the Mimic. And from what she's telling me, they all have his permission to be made, so like everything, is all legal there, and that they're all on consoles and Steam. Yeah, and I couldn't find any mention of Steel Wool on their website or the social media stuff that I was able to see, which was like really weird. Usually, if you're doing a remaster or remake or whatever of someone else's work, if you're on the up and up, you would at least credit the original maker, but I did not see that go on at all on Blue Line stuff. And also, something that the friend had informed me about, which also is a really good point, and something for everyone to watch out for as well in the future. Since Blue Line did not have permission and therefore was not legally involved with the Five Nights at Freddy's stuff, this whole thing with Blue Line and the remaster was not posted about or anything with either Steel Wool or the official Five Nights at Freddy's sources, from what the friend is telling me. And that is also a red flag. And that red flag could be either they did not make this product at all, or they are violating copyright, which is going to put them into legal trouble in court. Again, either way, doesn't look good for them. I think that just about covers it. I didn't go through every single page on their website, but I had seen enough where I was just like, it just does not give me good vibes. Yeah, so until there is actual gameplay footage that comes out, I'm not convinced that this product exists. I mean, of course, everyone could make up their own minds that they want about a situation. This is all just my opinion, and the analysis that I did trying to figure out what's going on, because I was not happy seeing my friend upset that she could not get this game, and she's feeling like that she had been tricked. So I wanted to look into it, dig up what information that I could, and then I also wanted to put out this video to let other folks know, and possibly have like some things to think about and consider in the future if they want to look into future similar situations. If someone is saying like, oh, I have this thing, you have a little bit more knowledge that you can arm yourself with when analyzing whether or not someone is telling the truth or is potentially gonna pull the rug out from under you. Safety first and all that. Especially since, like, when it comes to the internet, anyone can say anything, and with AI being a thing now, people are able to make very convincing looking products nowadays. You do have to be careful and watch yourself. The only good news is that it seems like that this Blue Line at least didn't seem to get money from anyone, so at least that. So if they're not getting money, why would someone go through all this to make a fake thing. Sometimes it's sometimes it can be like for clout to try and, just to grow their popularity for something else. And sometimes there are people out there who do go and make fake things just to point and laugh at people who fall for it. Basically, self entertainment. But yeah, just you want to analyze and research as much as you can, learn all you can, so that you can protect yourself from being potentially fooled. And whether that's being fooled financially or non financially, it doesn't matter. Again, like on the internet, it's very easy to do this stuff, especially with the tools that are out now. Hopefully, this video helped provide you guys with additional information and things to think about and look out for. Please be safe.